Hey everybody, this is Kara.
And this is Ed.
And this is your day's dumpster fire. Hello. How is everybody today?
Yo. I just noticed that like half of my computer screen has a burned in image of these plant tanks that we were looking at a little bit ago.
Now you have to set one as your wallpaper.
Maybe it just, golly, I hope that goes away because that looks really bad. I mean, it's an LCD screen, so I'm hoping it'll go away.
Turn it off and turn it back on again.
Yeah, well, we'll just set that. I'll just take a screenshot of everything, and I'll just set that as the background, and then we'll go from there.
There you go.
So, for those of you who are listening, this is take 2.
Take 2.
And we actually have a very, very fascinating topic involving like King Tut and how it was discovered and how like the history of King Tut and how all that is just an absolute dumpster fire, a historical dumpster fire, much like kind of like Cleopatra, how we got it all wrong.
Mm-hmm. And this will be a 2-parter, BT dubs.
Oh, it's going to be a 2-parter?
Well, this is going to be King Tut as the man, and then we'll have another addition to it for the finding of his tomb.
Okay.
So maybe not in sequence, maybe in sequence. We'll see how fast I can get it together. If I can't get it together fast enough, then I know that you have one down the pipeline for our friends, and I'll just have to wait one more cycle.
Yeah, no, I do have something coming up that is like the polar opposite of the time spectrum.
Yeah.
We're talking like 1990s here, so...
Yeah, we'll give everybody historical whiplash.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Let's do it.
So I kind of want to dive into the, what is it? The trash can fire.
Yep, hit us with it.
Yeah, so like I was just commenting, this is take 2. Well, when when we record these episodes, like when I go to download them from the website that we use to record, which is kind of like Zoom but on steroids, I notice like these files that when I download them are like they're like 1 gigabyte to 1.5 gigabytes depending on who's talking. And so I have to download all of that, both your voice, Kara, and my voice, and then I have to upload it into the editing software, and it's just gargantuan file. It is just epic. And like, even though it's audio, it still is kind of taxing on the very nice gaming machine that I have. So what I tried to do the last episode, or the last time we tried to record, which was last Sunday?
Yeah.
So I tried adjusting some settings where I tried to use a variable sample rate. So what is that? Basically put, you know how like when you watch a movie, you can see something at 60 hertz or 120 hertz or 244 hertz. You could see something at 60 frames per second or, whatever, right? When you watch a video, it is literally just tons and tons and tons of individual still pictures just flashing before your eyes. And your eyes typically record stuff at about 25 frames per second. So if you have a TV that is throwing out an image at 60 frames per second, to us, it looks like motion. You can do this if you have a camera. Like you can go to a Christmas tree or a television or whatever that is operating at 60 hertz or 60 frames per second, meaning you have an image and then you don't have an image and then you have an image again. Your lamp, most lamps operate at 60 hertz. So 60, that light is turning on and off 60 times a second.
Okay.
Like you could do this to a Christmas tree where if you were to take a picture of your Christmas tree at 1/60th of a second, you will see that parts of that Christmas tree are dark, like not even lit up, and then other parts are, blazing away.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really weird. So when you look at, or when you listen to a sound recording, you have a sample rate. So each second, how many times is your computer taking a slice of your voice and saving it? And usually I record at around 88,000 sample rate, meaning every second my computer, and I think your computer is doing the same thing, Kara. It is recording your voice 88,000 times a second. And when you combine all those samples, or frames, as I'm doing air quotes over here, when you put all those together, you get a wave. And that's where sound waves are figured out. So if you listen to music and you have all these sound waves going up and down all over the place and all that stuff, that is what it's showing. Is it's showing the sample rate. All right, cool. So in music, you like playing a guitar or whatever, or a band, you can have the sample rates go all over the place and the human ear can't tell. The issue is that the human ear is really, really susceptible to the spoken voice.
Okay.
So yeah, like if we're listening to, say, like Metallica, and they use a variable sample rate to save space, because if the music's quiet, it doesn't need to record anything. If the music is audible or loud, then yeah, you want to record as much data as possible. And to save space, it will use a variable rate upon which it records. The human voice does not respond well to that, or the human ear doesn't respond to the human voice, especially for those of the opposite sex. So, for example, when I'm talking into a microphone and I have like a quiet part,
Okay.
technically, there doesn't need to be the microphone doesn't need to be recording anything. The computer doesn't need to be encoding anything. Like nothing needs to be going on. So why waste recording 88,000 samples per second for that time frame?
Okay.
Like that makes sense. Like all that
Yeah.
makes sense. The issue is that what happens is when I was recording at that variable rate, like my tone of my voice was dipping below a certain point where the computer thought that, oh crap, this is just extraneous noise. This isn't usable data. So it slowed that rate way down.
Got it.
And,
Okay.
and then when I started talking, or you started talking for that matter, then it would speed up again. And so what was happening is that when that rate slowed down, believe it or not, it was recording less data, but it was still playing, like at 1 second per second. It was still like playing that back. And so I sounded like a chipmunk. And then it would ramp up until it was really, really slow, like until like it was at 88,000. And then I sounded like Barry White.
Nice.
And you sounded like a straight up grown man. Like, hey guys, we're talking about King Tut today.
Oh gosh, that's awful.
Yeah, and the software, and my absolute complete lack of knowledge on how any of this works, I couldn't get my editing software to fix that. I sounded like an absolute creeper. You sounded like you had a throat full of tumors, and I had to scrap it.
Yeah, that sounds like something that we probably should just get rid of. Just get rid of it.
So I went onto our little website, I deleted that recording, and here we go, the Thursday before the Sunday that I have to publish. So we are re-recording this episode, knowing that I should never mess around with variable recording rates and the human voice. And so that brings us to take 2.
Here we are.
So what do you got? I know we mentioned some King Tut stuff. What is today's legit dumpster fire?
Today's legitimate dumpster fire is we are talking about the life that we know of King Tut and how the lack of written history or artifacts really kind of messes us up as humans. But it's also something that happens very naturally considering Egyptian history is literally thousands of years old in its own right.
Okay, so are we looking at like, because I've seen National Geographic articles where they're like, oh, King Tut was this inbred Egyptian king who was a genetic train wreck, and then I've also read articles in the same National Geographic maybe a couple years later, like, oh yeah, no, he was a brilliant engineer and a king, and then conversely, like, oh yeah, the Egyptians built these pyramids via slave labor, but then a couple years later we find out that it may not have been slave labor, but mostly volunteers that legit wanted to help out. Is that kind of like what we're going to be diving into in terms of a dumpster fire?
Yeah, so that'll be mostly towards the end. And a lot of that stuff just has to do with continuous research and using technologies and tools that are always advancing on the same artifacts or materials, but also at the same time, that just has to do with a lot of hands in the same pot, which can be good, but can also cause a lot of arguments and conflicting information. So maybe they should argue before releasing things out to the public, but it's okay. It's almost like history and historical research is almost like a science to where you have to be flexible and be open-minded to new research and new information that we get. So yeah.
Well, and I feel like politics play a huge part too.
Maybe, I don't know. I didn't really read a lot of like hardcore politics. It's more just like this scholar says this and this scholar says that, but we don't really know for sure.
Well, and this may be more applicable on the second episode that we probably have coming up, where how are these tombs discovered? Who discovered them? Oh, it was a bunch of British folks. And what did they do to
and they take it to Britain. Yeah,
they threw dynamite at it. Let's do some dynamite about it.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about all that today.
And then they take everything back to England, and where a lot of artifacts sit, aka the Elgin marbles, but that's more of a Greek thing. But I feel like when it comes to humanity and who writes the history, it's like politically who is allowed to write the history.
The winners.
Well, I mean, I don't even think it's so much the winners. For example, like you look at the American Revolution. Oh, America was heroic. George Washington. We had these epic battles. We defeated the world's most powerful enemy. All right, cool. George Washington spent most of his time retreating from the British. Mm-hmm. George Washington lost most of the battles that he fought against the British. And if you look at British history during the 1770s and 1780s, you look at Parliament and you read the transcripts, you read everything that was going on, there's like no mention of the American Revolution.
I told my middle schoolers that this last school year.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? I was like, yeah, they cared, but it was more of an annoyance than it was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, like, literally what Britain did was they're just like, okay, Cornwallis, what do you need? Oh, I need 15,000 men. I need these ships. I need these cannons. All right, just go to the armory. Take whatever you want. Just go deal with this because we've got bigger things going on than a bunch of hillbillies in America revolting that they don't want to pay taxes. And so yeah, like politically, when we look at these discoveries or we look at these events, the American side is going to portray the American Revolutionary War drastically different than what the British portray it. Conversely, if you look at Vietnam, right, American politics kind of just try to gloss over the Vietnam War. Like, yeah, we were involved, but we just opted to leave. It wasn't worth our while. But if you look at Vietnam, it was like, this was our Revolutionary War, and we defeated America. We kicked them out. We defeated the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like when we start looking at, say, like King Tut and a lot of Egyptian history, because you have all sorts of white European dudes just traipsing through Egypt, just kind of taking whatever they want. I mean,
Yeah.
the pyramids look the way they are because of Napoleon firing cannons at them all the time.
Correct.
Like, cool. Great job, Napoleon, which that's another episode in its own right. So, I didn't know if, kind of like when we look at King Tut, you know, from what lens are we looking at this guy's life? What, you know,
Today,
how do we determine what is true and what is not?
Today we're just going to focus solely on the information that we have from artifacts that were found inside his tomb, talking about his life in ancient times, looking at it through a lens of who is this person during his life. So we are not going to be touching on the founding of his tomb. We're not going to be touching on where the artifacts are or where they were before, what they're doing with the artifacts in a modern era. We are looking at the ancient period in which this person lived.
Okay.
And then we will also, because it is related, we'll talk about research that goes into looking at the artifacts, looking at the mummy itself, talking about who we think he was or could have been as a person to the best of our ability at this time, and gathering.
And are we going to be diving into like what alien species was involved that helped build the pyramids?
Absolutely not.
Well, shoot. Okay.
I'm not going to open that can of worms today.
I was hoping it was the Ebens, maybe the Pleiadians assisted, but I don't think the Greys and the Reptilians had anything to do with it, but it's got to be the Ebens or the Pleiadians.
Okay.
Right. You're with me on this.
I didn't know how to respond to it. So I'm sorry for that awkward silence. I just didn't know how to respond.
No, I've literally come across people that are like, oh yeah, the Egyptians couldn't have done that by themselves. There had to be an aliens. I'm like,
no.
All right, so much for human beings being cool and all. We have to rely on some weird species of creature from millions of light years away to help us figure this out. But all right, I guess we suck.
In fact, just so everybody is clear, I have some really cool lesson plans for my 6th graders for ancient Egypt. I'm going to make them build pyramids, and I'm going to make them mummify fruit. Therefore, no aliens are going to be involved. Yes. I'll share that with you later, but I'm very excited about it.
Oh, okay, I'm in, because I want to know how to, like, mummify stuff. Actually, I do that anyways with making beef jerky and stuff, but...
That's true.
Anyways, yeah, I want to know how to mummify... I want to mummify a kiwi, so...
Yeah, dude. One of my co-teachers, she's sending me the lesson plan. Once I get it, I'll share it with you.
Dude, sign me up.
Heck yeah. All right, so I'm going to jump in real quick. Before we get into our friend Tutankhamun, I wanted to give you a brief idea and understanding, an imaginary timeline, if you will, of where we are jumping into Egyptian history. It is, because it's so vast, it ends with the Roman and Byzantine Empire, basically kind of where we were with Cleopatra just after that. So Cleopatra's time ended at 30 BCE, and then that began the Roman and Byzantine Empire at 30 BCE to 642 CE. Beginning with Caesar, okay? That was
the Roman Empire phase.
Roman and Byzantine Empire, yes. They kind of lumped it in.
No, because before that, going all the way to 300 BC, was the Roman Republic.
Correct. And just to be clear, it's Augustus Caesar, not Julius Caesar.
A Caesar's a Caesar.
Caesar's a Caesar.
It's a salad, nonetheless.
Fair enough. So that's kind of where it ended. When we think of ancient Egyptian culture, it began way, way, way back during the pre-dynastic era of 4,300 to 3,000 BCE. Whoa. That is the length of time that we're talking about here for ancient Egypt.
Okay, I'm sorry. Like, America has been around, even if we factor in the colonies and all that stuff, America has literally been around for a total of 500 years.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a civilization that had existed fruitfully, I would say, for 3,000 years.
And change. Yeah.
And so, and what blows my mind is that when we look at technology, and this is something that I've kind of dabbled in a little bit. This is something I kind of explore a little bit. Like, how is it that a culture that has existed for literally a third of human recorded history, how is it they started using stone tools and whatnot, and ended with stone tools, but yet you look at modern day society, and in the 1900s we had horse-drawn carriages, and by 2020 we have flying planes, computers, we've landed on the moon. Yes, guys, we landed on the moon. Like, we have space probes, we have all sorts of technology. And one thing that always baffles me is like, okay, how is the Egyptians that have been around for thousands of years kind of started and ended at the same level of technology? But yet we look at the last 100 years of human technology and it's been exponential.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just something to think about. I had to take, when I was in college, I had to take a class on the history of technology, and that was one of the like essay questions. Is like, explain what happened with the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Romans versus why technology has grown so much today. It's a complicated topic, to say the least.
It really is, and it's a worldwide thing because it spans down to South America too. When you talk about the Aztecs and the Mayans.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's a whole nother topic, because I know they found tombs where they found like THC and like mummies and stuff, and the only place that can grow in the world at that time was in South America.
Yeah,
and so like the only conclusion that you can draw is that, yeah, Egyptians were sailing across the Atlantic and they had interactions that I need to find the book. Probably the most insane concept is, there was this guy who looked at the pyramids of Giza and how each of the pyramids have all these tunnels, kind of like in certain angles and whatnot. And what he discovered was that, like, on a winter solstice, when you look through this one tunnel, a specific really, really bright star is right in the middle. And if you were standing on, say, Mount Everest at that exact time, that star would be straight up above you. And he then started looking at all these other tunnels, and he started to see, like, oh my gosh, like, when you look through this tunnel at a summer solstice, that bright star that's in the middle of the view is over the Mayan temples, or it is over the Anasazi, or it's over the tallest peak in Britain, or the tallest peak in Africa. And like, the only way that can work out is if the ancient Egyptians were traveling the world and they had a better understanding of the world than what we give them credit for.
Yeah, considering how old this civilization is, I think there's a lot that we don't know.
I think there's more that we don't know than what we do know.
Yes, 100%.
Including how to, like, mummify kiwis.
We're going to learn that. Immediately. All right. So pre-dynastic means basically civilizations before they had a pharaoh. The first dynasty that they had roughly began at around 3000 BCE. So that would be Dynasty 1, as they call it, or the first, society where they had a pharaoh. We are going to jump to dynasty number 18. So literally smack dab in the middle, because the last dynasty they had before Alexander the Great is Dynasty 31. So we are in the middle of everything. And doing ancient Egyptian research, especially when we're doing it right in the middle of the timeline here, is like turning on season 4, episode 6 of Game of Thrones when you've never watched it before, and you have to figure it out. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. So what I did was I did a little bit of research with his parents, kind of where his family line comes from, and all of that fun stuff, just to kind of get a grasp of where we're at. So 18th dynasty Egypt, that dynasty lasted from 1539 to 1292 BCE. So just remember, when we're talking BCE, we count backwards. So we're like on the negative side of the number line for our math people.
I wonder how their watches looked back then.
Like sundials.
Yeah, but you know how like our when we look at the calendar feature in our watch or our phone, how it's like, June 29th, June 30th, July 1st. I feel like theirs had to go in reverse. So like their tomorrow would have been June 28th.
I understand. Maybe.
And then the day after that had to been June 27th.
Maybe. Now you want me to now I want to look up like the history of timekeeping, but we're going to stay away from that because that feels like a really complex situation. So we know that King Tut was born somewhere around 1352-53 BCE. We don't really know his date of birth, but we do know that he ruled from 1333 to 23 BCE. So his date of birth is kind of iffy, but at least we know when he ruled. He was originally born with the name of Tutankhamun. So the difference is that last part, the Aten part, that means the living image of Aten. His father was a man named Akhenaten, and during his time, Akhenaten basically nixed the entire old religion of multiple gods, polytheism, and he changed it to a monotheistic society. So he basically said, all of your old gods with Ra and all of the other cool guys that I can't remember the names of right now, we're not going to worship those guys. We're just going to worship this one dude named Aten, and that's just how it's going to go. And he basically destroyed all of the other temples. He told people it's illegal, you're going to be in really big trouble, we might kill you if you worship the old gods. He moved the capital of the city down south to a city that he founded. It was a really big shift in ancient Egyptian society, and because he was the pharaoh, he could do whatever he wanted, so people went with it or they died.
I had no idea. I thought that was something that the polytheistic side of things, I thought that existed all the way up until the very end.
Well, it did. We'll get to it. But yes, this happened for a short period. Basically just during this guy's rule.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, so this was the only guy who did it. He was kind of weird. It was just during his rule when that happened. Akhenaten was kind of like the black sheep of ancient Egyptian history. If you look him up, it's he got his own thing going on, whatever floats his boat. All right, so recent research has found some very interesting things. So beforehand, scholars were 99% sure that his King Tut's father was Akhenaten. Like, super sure, we know this is the guy. And then all of a sudden they dug up another tomb and they came up upon this other dude named Smenkhare. And we know very, very little about Smenkhare. He's believed to be related to Akhenaten in some way. The reason for this is this person is thought to be like a co-regent of Akhenaten. So they basically, saying basically a lot, I'm so sorry. So they ruled together as like a team for a little bit. And they believe that he was married. He was related to Akhenaten just because they're going off of the fact that why would he have somebody help him lead who's not related to him? Which is fair considering they marry in the family.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you gotta keep it in the family.
Gotta keep the bloodline pure. Some scholars believe that Smenkhare wasn't a king at all, that it was just another name for Nefertiti, and she was the one ruling alongside Akhenaten. Some other people think that maybe he was King Tutankhamun's little brother, or his cousin, or his uncle. They don't really know. It's all kinds of jacked up. We just know that he was there. He existed at some point, and he was kind of considered like a co-king. He's there. So I just wanted to note it. He is there. We don't really know anything about him. The only dated document of his reign that we have is some graffiti in a tomb in Thebes that notes he was in his third ruling year. That's all we got.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for all intents and purposes, Akhenaten, will call him King Tutankhamun's father. Akhenaten was married to Nefertiti, and for those of you who don't know who she is, please look her up. I wouldn't call her a failure, so we may not look too much into her here, but I think she is a fascinating figure, so please go look her up. So he was married to Nefertiti, and there was one other prominent woman in Akhenaten's circle of peeps, and she's kind of like she's considered his favorite cohort, his favorite side lady. It was
Oh,
a lot of
God.
pharaohs had more than one wife. Like it's not weird in their culture, but
Of
we're
course.
just gonna say like Nefertiti was the royal woman, the first wife. Like she was queen, she was it. And then he had all the other ladies, and this lady was the one just under Nefertiti. Let's put it that way. Her name was Kia. So the reason I bring that up is we don't know who King Tut's mother was. And I think scholars kind of go back and forth. They fight about it a little bit. I'd say that most believe that it's Nefertiti. Like that's the majority vote is Nefertiti, but there's still some Kia supporters out there, maybe some other supporters of a third party. But for the most part, Nefertiti is the winner at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay?
So it's men in power doing what men in power do.
For now.
Just
Jacking things up.
just confusing bloodlines and can't stick with one person. They've got to hook up with all sorts of other people with a pulse.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Henry VIII.
Oh God, that's going to be an episode. That's absolutely going to be a future episode. It's on the list already.
It's got to be, yeah.
It's on there. All right. So Nefertiti, we know for a fact, gave birth to at least 3 daughters. Not long after the 3 daughters were born, we get King Tutankhamun. Well, he wasn't king then; he was Tutankhamun. And then when he was born, until the age of about 9, he was educated by 2 of the king's trusted advisors. So he was educated as a prince. He was educated about ruling and etiquette and other princely things, like maybe hunting, just stuff, guy stuff.
Yeah, kingly stuff.
Kingly stuff. So an interesting thing is King Tutankhamun was not king. He wasn't coronated. Is that a word? Coronated? I don't know. He didn't have his coronation until after Nefertiti passed away. So Akhenaten passed, Smenkhare passed, and Nefertiti, there's like a little bit of chunk of time in there where Nefertiti actually ruled as king. And that's one of my favorite things about her. So if you look her up, she did rule as pharaoh for a little bit before she died.
Do we know like the cause of death or?
I honestly didn't look into that.
Okay.
I'll be completely honest. I didn't look up her like death or what caused it. I just know that she ruled as pharaoh for a few years, and I thought that was really cool. And I'm probably going to do some reading on her because I just find it really fascinating.
Yeah.
Go ladies. So Tut became king at 9 after she died. We don't know where or when his coronation was, but we do have depictions and artwork about his coronation, and it's very like blown out of the water. There's gods involved and name changing things down the road, and
there's thousands of years of narratives that have been added layer upon layer to.
Well, the artwork is beautiful.
Happened.
If you look up the coronation of King Tut and you look up the artwork, it's actually really cool. Yeah, super cool. He's like going up towards the sun and all of that stuff. All right, so shortly after he was king, he was made king. He was married to his sister or his cousin or his half sister or whatever. I don't know. They're still deciding. Sister, cousin, half sister person.
Regardless, insert banjo music here.
Correct. Her name, and I'm going to really try to not butcher this. It's easier to say her changed name, but I'm going to try for all of you. Here we go. Ankhesenaten. I think I got it right. Ankhesenaten. Yeah. All right. So.
Wow.
He married her.
Nothing like finding that on Tinder.
Right? Ankhesenaten. And there's 2 A's in there. Paton. Paaton. All right. So when they married, he was 9-10 years old. She was about 13 or 14 years old. She, from what we know, she is the youngest daughter, if I remember correctly, because I didn't write it down. She was the youngest daughter of Nefertiti and Akhenaten. And we don't know if she's his sister, cousin, or half-sister because we don't really know who King's stepmother is. But for now, we're just going to go with they're related. Because he was still young when he first started ruling, he had 2 primary advisors. One being AY, and he had long maintained ties with the royal family. He was one of King Tut's original educators, I guess you could call him. He was around the family before King Tut was born. He's just been around. He was also considered a religious advisor, almost like a priest. I don't think that he would have the title of high priest. I could be very wrong. I could be wrong on that. But he was very, very involved with the religion aspect of things. And then there was another advisor. His name was Horemheb. And we'll kind of get into that later, but he was basically the general of armies. He was the army guy, so he had a religion guy and an army guy, and those two guys were the primary official advisors to King Tut when he was still a child. The Egyptian government was in a large transition period when he gained power. So remember all that fun stuff that I was talking about how his dad changed everything that these people knew about everything.
Like, let's rewrite religion.
Yeah, which back then was everything. So Nefertiti began the process of fixing that. So the Egyptian government was literally in transition when she died. The first thing they did was they moved the government and the nobility, so King Tut and his wife, out of the city his father built and into Memphis, which is further north towards the delta, and I believe it's a little bit further like northwest of Thebes. In his second year of rule, Tutankhamen renamed himself as Tutankhamun, which is the name that we now know. And what that does is it changes the last portion of his name, I should say, from Aten to Amun. And that completely changes everything because Aten was the original god that his father worshipped. Amun is one of the original gods of the old religion. So just immediately right there, that's telling the people that he's ruling of what his intentions are, or what his advisors' intentions are.
Well, and here's what's interesting. You look at his wife.
She also changed her name.
Oh, okay. So she had a name prior to becoming what I'm looking at.
She was Ankhesenaten, and then she changed it to Ankhesenamen. Ankhesenamen. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they both changed that last part to include Amun or Amun.
So in other words, it sounds like his dad tried to rewrite religious history.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess is that they didn't have 24/7 news stations broadcasting all that all the time. So it would probably be very, very hard to spread that change around when your lifespan was like 30 years.
Well, the difficult thing was what Ankhesenaten did, or gosh.
Tut's dad.
All these Ankens. I'm scrolling up. Sorry, hold on. Okay, Ankhesenaten. What he did was when he was ruling, he tried to erase as much artwork as he could, which is unfortunate.
Oh, that's awful.
Yep. He tried to erase as much artwork as he could. He destroyed temples. He fired people from temples. He killed people. Shrines. Everything was destroyed. Anything that celebrated the old god, he destroyed it as best he could. And then he replaced all of it with his religion, with his Aten. Okay? That's what he did. So when you said that, I was like, well, he tried. He did try, and honestly, he was almost successful. Nefertiti started the process of undoing what he did, but I don't think she got very far.
Wow.
Tutankhamun's, and more likely his advisors, began the process of rebuilding all of these things that he did.
So this is very Henry VIII, because Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church, started his own thing. He bit the dust after killing a bunch of his wives. And then his daughter from his first wife is like, no, we're going back to Catholic. Mm-hmm. And then she bites the dust. And then the whole country then shifts back to being Protestant. And then you've got Queen Elizabeth, who's just like, okay.
His other daughter.
His other daughter from another mother. Correct. Anne Boleyn, she's like, okay, we've got to figure this out. We need to stop all these changing of religions because it's doing more harm than good. And I feel like that's kind of what was happening here.
Yeah, I could see that.
So especially with Nefertiti, she's like, okay, my husband was a douche. He was a bit of a jerk. Let's bring it back to how it worked before.
Yeah, and I know he was a weirdo.
Yeah,
We're just-
like I may have killed him, but there's no proof of that, so let's go back to the old ways.
Correct. Correct. All right. So restoration began in about his second or third year of rule. And we have a lot of detail and we know about the restoration because we have this really awesome stela, basically a rock with a bunch of writing on it. It's currently sitting in the Cairo Museum. And what it says, and it details everything they did, but it also has a whole bunch of propaganda. We're going to kind of go through the propaganda and find all of the facts that we can find. But, you can tell. I guess I can't personally tell, but they can tell. Archaeologists can tell the differences in what's newer, what's older, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So what they did is they rebuilt new temples. They refurbished some current standing temples. They built brand new temples. They gave gifts to current shrines, and they gave gifts to other temples, and they were trying to basically please the Egyptian elite with big, expensive, shiny gifts to try and bring back favor to the family.
Okay.
He was 12.
I feel like that's a pretty tall order for a 12-year-old to have to figure out.
He was 12. I just want to really drive that home right now. He was 12 years old. So I want to touch on temples really quick. Temples were a major source of income, and they acted as a large community center for the local people. So oftentimes when you look at temples or depictions of temples, they often had farmland around them. They would use the crops they would get from the farmland and either sell it or feed the people in the area. They would hold events there. The people would meet there. So it wasn't just a place of worship, but it was also a meeting place for the local community. And when Akhenaten closed them, it was a really big major blow to the people who lived there. It changed everything. You took down the temple. It's like taking down the Capitol building, the rec center, the church, and the economic center of a city. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because it's not like the people back then really had much going for them in entertainment.
Yeah.
And so, like, these temples were kind of where everything took place that they had access to.
Correct. Yeah. It's like a center point for everyone.
So it was almost like taking away everybody's cell phone.
Yeah.
Like today, if everybody lost their cell phones or lost their TVs or computers,
people would be wrecked.
It would be a lot of chaos for quite some time until people are like, oh wait, there's books. We can still read.
We can drive over to this place and talk to each other.
Yeah, like we can see people face to face as you and I are currently recording from one side of Phoenix to the other side of Phoenix, but
that's fair.
We won't
talk about that.
We'll let the rest of the world fall into chaos. We'll keep our thing going.
Yeah, it's cool. The exact date of the beginning of the restoration is unknown. Even with the written decree of restoration, they don't really date it, which is fine. At least we have it. It was common for pharaohs to use really fluffy language when they write about their things. So with this written decree, it said a lot of things like, I'll fix all of your problems. Also, here's a list of your problems. No crops, organization, the gods are mad at us, and we're also surrounded by enemies from the north and the south. And if you use the context clues of the history that we know about this period, we can kind of navigate through the fluffy language and the propaganda of making themselves sound really awesome. They were surrounded by enemies from the north and the south. So that is actually fairly accurate. We get most of the information and details from the writings on that big cool rock that's in the Cairo Museum. New statues and shrines were commissioned and adorned with precious stones and metals that acted as gifts to the gods. So when they built the new temples, they put in new statues and they put in new shrines and they put really pretty stones in there and some metals. And it was all in the name of the old gods to bring them back. And new sets of priests were also appointed to serve in temples and manage religious affairs. These men were chosen based off of their nobility and familial reputation, and they were also often people that already knew the royal family. So they already had some sort of connection with the royal family, or it was like some guy that the family knows of that has a good reputation, a good head on his shoulders, whatever it happens to be. And the goal in this was to get people in places of power with super cushy jobs that could bring the reputation of the new king to a point where other people, and maybe even more common people, were more approving of this new king. They want the people to support this guy. So in order to do that, they got people that already had love for this family in places of power and influence.
See, all that effort, all that work tells me that what his dad was doing wasn't favorable.
Correct. It was not at all.
Yeah, like people were not responding well to this at all. And so like when his dad died, his mom took over. His mom was like, "Hey, I sent out people throughout the land. They're kind of pissed off at our family. We probably need to revert things back." And then that starts this whole campaign of going back to the good old days, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, whereas, like, if everybody was cool with it, everybody was excited with his dad's reign and decision, they wouldn't have to do any of this. They would have just been able to maintain the status quo and then move on. But yeah, something tells me that they were trying to prevent just an absolute uprising or a mutiny or whatever happened in Russia like a week ago.
Accurate. Yes. He also filled the temple with slave labor. And these slaves were singers and dancers providing entertainment for people who were going into the temples, and these were always women. So singers and dancers, slaves, always women.
Interesting.
A sign of the times. I'm just going to leave it there. He did, however, make sure that the women were legally protected by the temples to ensure that they were not physically harmed or stolen away and taken elsewhere. So he's got that going for him, I guess. I mean, at least that's something.
The thing that bothers me, though, is that, yeah, these quote-unquote entertainers were stolen themselves, assuming that they were, like, legit slaves. And they were, like, 12.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Like, they were teenagers, because who knows what the average lifespan was at that time. You're probably not going to find that many consenting adult female entertainers that are like, yeah, sign me up, I'll do this. I have a funny feeling these were probably teenagers, if even that, who were forced into these situations.
Yes.
And the only reason why I say that is because humanity has been doing that since the beginning of humanity, all the way to the present.
Yep, and
it's infuriating that here we are in the 21st century and we're still
fighting that,
doing the same thing, Epstein. We're still doing the same thing that humanity was doing thousands of years ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You'd think that we'd learn by now.
I don't know. I don't want to sound cynical about the human race, but there's just certain things that I think the human race is incapable of learning.
That's fair.
So,
well,
yeah, on that note,
we're just, it sounds so cold just kind of pushing it along like this, but I feel bad. Especially with this next line.
Oh,
new
God.
Boats. Guys, I know we have sleighs, but hey, at least we have some new boats being built with some fancy pine and wood. So there's that. He did build new boats. And then what the boats were used for was to transport all of the crops that they were growing at the temple to trade or move to other people along the river. And those are generally expensive, so that was nice. And then wealth was given to the appointed priests and their families in order to keep them running. And slaves were used to run the temple logistically. So the slave thing, again, awful, horrendous, normal for the time period, doesn't make it right, but there it is. Temples are also known to own large farmlands, which I've said multiple times, to build the economy. So obviously people were very happy with this whole restoration plan. Yay! Thank you. While restoration was happening, Tutankhamun's government was also planning a war. So I have a feeling that all this restoration stuff was like I's side of the advising, and then now we're kind of going into Horemheb's area of expertise, which was war and battle. They were manufacturing weapons, they were building tools for war, bows, arrows, chariots, things of that nature. When we start to see these things, King Tutankhamun was about 13 years old.
Holy, there's a lot of stuff going on.
There's a
just
lot
few
happening.
years.
Yes, there's a lot happening here.
Jeez.
Recently, there's been new analysis of his objects that were found in his tomb, and a lot of it is battle ready. So beautiful bows, arrows. He had 6 chariots buried with him. He had leather scale armor buried with him, and one of the coolest things that I think he had, and he had it on his person, on his body, it was mummified with him, was a dagger, and the iron in the dagger is sourced from a meteorite. So it's iron from a space rock. And back then, he probably would have believed that it was a weapon gifted to him from the gods, and that's why he kept it so close. And I thought that was super.
Yeah, I've heard of that before, of the idea of using a meteorite to make a divine weapon out of.
Yeah, he had one on his person. They analyzed it very recently, actually, like with current technology, and it does in fact have iron from a meteorite in it. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's kind of like an epic gift to give somebody.
Right? Can you imagine? Even now, that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, because I have a freaking space rock in my living room.
This is true. I know how heavy that space rock is. Imagine how heavy that dagger is.
Yeah, it is. It weighs like 20 plus pounds. Like, it is. You drop that thing on your foot, and your priorities have been reset for the day.
You no longer have a toe.
It's fine. You got 9 others.
You might have toe pieces, but not a whole toe. Ew. All right. There was also artwork and records found depicting King Tut fighting off enemies from the north and the south. We do have those art depictions. We don't know if it's propaganda or if it's actually happened. I think most people chalk it up to propaganda, but it's there. Do with that information what you will. Horemheb was King Tut's general guy, his general right-hand man. He was a military elite for the king. He did have other titles while he was in government. He was even given the name in favor of the king in every place. So this guy was very, very high up there. He's basically King Tut's right-hand man. Like, he's the guy to go to, especially for military anything. One title, which is very interesting, says that he was... I lost it. Where'd it go? Got it. One title says he attended the king on the day of smiting the Easterners, which may suggest that he went to battle at least once. Whether he fought or he was just there for morale, we don't know. That is literally the only thing we have right now that tells us for sure that he may have been in a battle, yes or no.
Meaning he left the palace to do something.
He left the palace to go do something that may have been on a battlefield.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
close.
heroic.
It's something. It's something. Horemheb kept very clear records and journals of his time in government and military, which have aided historians in researching this era, and it's been a big help for them. Horemheb's tomb was partially destroyed, but we do have enough evidence to give us some sort of story of his life and background as a military man, including campaigns that he led during King Tut's reign in the north. So he was pretty much undefeated. During King Tutankhamun's time, he was undefeated. And there is also art depicting Horemheb giving King Tut captives and treasures after his victories and all of that fun stuff. The other reason that we don't know if King Tutankhamun participated in battle is because there is this hypothesis where his health was questionable. There was a possible reliance on canes. So we don't fully trust the battle idea, though it is an interesting idea. We don't really know.
Yeah, I've heard about that before, where like King Tut was kind of like a genetic train wreck.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Oh, all right, cool.
We're getting there. We're actually coming to the end of his life.
Here we go.
So that's all the known information we have, pretty much. One interesting fun fact, it's not really a fun fact. I'm not going to call it a fun fact, scratch that. One interesting fact that we do have is that he was mummified with 2 very small mummies, and they were 2 miscarriages. He had 2 miscarried daughters. They were buried with him in his tomb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why I took back the fun fact comment. He reigned for 10 years, and then he died at the age of 19. So the interesting thing about him dying at the age of 19 is in ancient Egypt, boys are usually considered men at the age of 14. So it's like a really weird 5 years he was considered a child king, and then 5 years he's considered an adult king, and I don't know how to really take that. And I don't think other people really know how to take that, because before, like in pop culture, people think of him as like the boy king, he was a child and blah, blah, blah. But really, he was a teenager and pretty much an adult for half of the time. So,
yeah, I saw some documentaries back when the History Channel had shows about history.
yeah.
And the idea of a boy becoming a man is when they were old enough to produce the elixir of life.
Sure.
Okay, so
puberty hits.
But they had to produce it themselves.
Sure.
So there's that component. So yeah, all the teenage boys are snickering right now. The other thing is that when they became quote unquote men, that is when they were circumcised.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That just sounds painful. You say that and I cringe, because I can't imagine. As a lady, I can't imagine.
Yeah. It's just something like, why would I want to be of age to remember a giant axe coming down on something near and dear to everyone? So,
God.
Yeah, that's like once they were old enough to be able to handle, for the lack of better words, handle that situation, that is when they were considered men.
Well, that sounds really fun and enjoyable.
Well, what's really weird is that the Mayans had that practice.
Uh-huh.
There was ancient Chinese cultures that had the same practice.
Uh-huh.
The ancient Greeks had a similar thing. There are Native American tribes that had a very similar practice. And it's just kind of strange that at this time in human history, there were very similar practices going down to indicate a coming of age.
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, it's just kind of weird. It's almost like there was like a pre-internet Reddit page going on in the world at that time.
I feel like you could write a full PhD thesis about overlapping practices of different cultures in the ancient period, and it would be a fascinating PhD thesis to read.
I think there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of them out there.
You're probably right. Now that you say that, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't be the only person that would find that interesting. It's like, hey, what determines when a boy becomes a man? Because it's not as indicative for a male as it is for a female.
Yeah,
like there's a before and an after for women, whereas for men, it's like, oh, what's a good time to try this? Hey, you up for getting an axe to your head?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm ready. All right, you're a man.
God. Men.
Yeah, men doing men things for thousands of years. It's the bro code.
No one knows how King Tutankhamun died. In fact, it's a very big hot ticket debate among scholars and historians. Some think that he was killed by a blow to the head by murder. Others think that he succumbed to an illness from malaria or scoliosis. Another theory is that he broke his leg during a chariot race, or maybe in battle, or whatever it is, and malaria made it worse, along with infection and all of that. So those are some theories. There are other theories about how he died, but really we just don't know, and we may never know. We may never know how this person died. In terms of his health, he had a number of disorders that were found when they examined his mummy and his body. Especially recently, as technology gets better, we get more information and we can take off some theories that were originally thought and cross those off the board. Most recently, signs of bone necrosis were found on his mummy. Some scholars debate as to whether this was something he had during his life or if it's being a side effect of a 3,000-year-old mummy. So that one, we don't really know. Take that how you will. It's also been speculated that he may have had a club foot and needed assistance from a cane. However, this one's also debated because the shoes that he had and he was buried with and the canes that he had didn't have extensive wear and tear. The shoes that he had didn't have uneven wear on them. They were just like normal even wear on both feet. In terms of physicality, we know for sure that he had, not physicality, but we do know for sure, and it's pretty much confirmed, that he had scoliosis and multiple strains of malaria, including a super severe one that I don't remember the name of. I think in one source I read there were 7 strands of malaria, but he was riddled with it. So that may have been a reason as to why he was dying at the age of 19. We don't really know, but it's there. Malaria was definitely there, and so was scoliosis. Those 2 things we know.
Well, and the thing that gets me is that necrosis of the bone.
Yeah, that one's weird.
Because once the person dies, so if you have an infection, right, let's say you cut your calf or whatever, and you opt to not get like proper treatment or it's not accessible, then what happens is that it'll start getting infected. And that infection will work its way to the bone, and it will keep eating away at the bone until that person dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, because there's no fresh blood flow and stuff like that, from there, the infection kind of dies off. But the body will try to encapsulate it. The body will try, like, you can have an infection in your leg for years, and it will be like a really, really awful sore spot. Going back to Henry VIII, he had a horse riding accident where his leg got impaled by a stick or something, and he had that open wound for the rest of his life. I mean, he had it for decades.
Yeah.
So what I wonder is if, he had scoliosis, but that could have also been, I wonder if that was being treated kind of like how Chinese females would go through the foot binding process.
Mm-hmm.
And, and as an adult, like, they can't even walk anymore. I wonder if him being the son of a literal god, if his childhood or like his infancy days where the environment treated him in such a way that he couldn't even have a proper spinal development.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those things I would love to go back in time and meet the guy and be like, hey, bro, what happened to you? Like, what?
Why are you the way you are?
Yeah, because let me tell you, dude, like, when you die and we discover you, you look like crap. So...
You look terrible.
Yeah, you look bad for a dead guy. Oh, and you're gonna die here like any day. Just FYI.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bet that into itself is a much heated topic of discussion amongst scholars and
it is.
And all that. Like, how did this guy die based on the evidence? And I'm pretty sure they've gotten DNA now, and so they could run DNA tests and like look at the genome of this guy and be like, okay, well, he was, he had a 80% chance of heart failure, a 70% chance of being colorblind, or I wonder what the genome of him would have looked like, especially given the fact that he was buried with 2 miscarried daughters.
Well, I think there's one thing that we need to take into consideration. He was highly, highly inbred.
Yeah. So,
just saying.
So he was a legit a genetic train wreck.
Oh yeah. So in terms of physicality, and based off of what we've seen in art in his mummy, He had a very, very slight build, almost feminine, with an elongated head, a big, huge, massive overbite, and he was about 5 feet 6 inches tall, with a possible limp.
Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and didn't they do head binding back then, where like the baby would have, like, if you're a pharaoh or going to be a pharaoh, like they would bind your head as an infant to try to make it more elongated.
I want to say I don't think so, but I feel like that could be wrong, so I can't confidently answer that question with a resounding yes or no right now.
Okay.
At this moment, I can look it up, and we can.
In other
take
words,
the time,
so this guy,
he was weird looking.
yeah, he genetically, he didn't have much going for him other than wherever he went in his palace, there was a banjo player in the background.
Yes.
It
was Deliverance in Egypt.
Yeah, he was delivered one way or another.
Oh, God. That movie. Oof.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that's pretty much the end of it. One final fun detail that I wanted to share was just all of the attempts to explain why he was the way he was and why he died so early. These are all theories that have been disregarded or debunked, or however you want to call it. But it's a fun, long list of things that all sound horrible, and half of them I can't pronounce, but I'm going to try anyway, just for the sake of funsies. All right. So they thought, and this is throughout like history, so since 1922 to now, I don't know if it's all of them, but it's a nice long list. They believed that he had gynecomastia.
Gynecomastia.
Thank you. Yeah, that one.
I'm very familiar with that because I'm fat.
Okay. Marfan syndrome. Wilson.
Well, hey, like you just can't say gynecomastia and just leave it at that.
Well, I don't know what it is, so I can't confidently say.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to,
I know what it is because I'm fat. It's basically whenever you get a guy who has to at least some degree fully developed breast tissue that is similar to that of a woman.
Got it.
Man boobs.
Okay.
So gotcha. I don't know if I qualify for being diagnosed with it because I'm not producing milk or lactating and stuff like that. But yeah, gynecomastia became a huge topic in the past 20 years, especially in, I think it was like in Cuba, where there was like 10-year-old boys that like straight up had B and C cup bra sizes. And it was because they were injecting cows and pigs with so much estrogen to try to develop them to produce, like the cows to produce more milk, or for the pigs to produce a certain type of meat or whatever. And the boys would be eating this, and yeah, they would be consuming huge amounts of estrogen. And yeah, they were basically, they were looking like they were even at the age of 10, they had the bra size of a 17, 18-year-old teenage girl.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, gynecomastia is kind of weird, and it also will turn into breast cancer for men.
Huh. Okay. So maybe they thought that because his features were really feminine. I think of like he looked like an elf or something, because you know how elves have the androgynous features almost.
Yeah, he would have been.
Maybe that's where that came from.
Yeah, he would have been a Aleister Crowley fan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, gynecomastia. I don't know like how that would work. I don't know if being inbred has anything to do with that. Generally, it has something to do with being overweight or consuming stuff with a lot of estrogen in it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's just one of the ones that they had listed.
Just like another layer of this onion that we call Tutankhamun.
Yeah. I'd say this list of failed syndromes and diagnoses is probably my favorite part of this fire.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So you got Marfan syndrome, Wilson-Turner X-linked intellectual disability syndrome, Frolic syndrome.
How the heck do you assess that on a dead person?
No idea, but we're going with it. Frolic syndrome, adiposogeneal dystrophy, Klinefelter syndrome, androgen insensitivity syndrome, aromatase excess syndrome in conjunction with sagittal craniosynostosis. I was doing so good. Craniosynostosis syndrome.
That's the head binding.
Got it. Antley-Bixler syndrome, or one of its variants. It's also been suggested that he inherited temporal lobe epilepsy.
Okay.
Which would be like early death for him, and
that too would have been tied to head binding.
Yeah. And that is the long, lovely list of things that they thought he might have had, but has since been debunked.
Okay, nice.
It's a great list of things that we should all Google later. All right.
I'm actually Googling it now.
Excellent.
Yeah, like some of these syndromes prevent you from like having a developed nose to a cleft palate.
Mm-hmm. He does have a cleft palate or a hard palate.
And then you've got issues where, yeah, I see the one here where like the baby's eyes look like they're like too high up or the top of the head is too far down.
Cool.
That is the developmental, the cranial developmental issues. He probably had webbed fingers.
Fun.
Yeah, this guy, and I feel like this is probably what came about after like they were able to do some like genome testing and whatnot.
Yeah. And all this stuff, just so we're clear, all of these things that we're listing off, it's all either take it with a grain of salt or we just don't know enough to confirm absolutely anything, and we don't have enough information. And I will also tell you that when they did open his tomb in 1922, they did not give a flying flip about the mummy inside the sarcophagus. They just wanted the sarcophagus to the point where they saw it. Or the
giant gold mask that he...
Yeah. And we'll get into all of that in the next episode, but just be aware that the way the body was taken out probably really messed it up for all of the scientists trying to figure this guy out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that's where the real dumpster fire is. It's just the fact that we don't have a lot to research, but we have enough to make an hour-and-a-half long episode about the man, which is pretty good. But yeah, I think where the dumpster fire in this episode lies is just the fact that we don't have enough information to really zone in on who this person actually was. And part of that is just due to not taking care of the body very well upon burial. Part of that is just the fact that this is a 3,000-year-old person, and part of that is we're talking about a span of time that lasted 4,000 years. So,
yeah,
yeah,
and
that is King Tut.
Yeah, I definitely think the next episode we need to look at is how his tomb was discovered. Who discovered it?
Yes.
We need to look at the people that kind of like pioneered everything in terms of, you know what? I think there's a tomb behind this wall. How do we get to it? Maybe hammer and chisel? Nah, man. Let's do some dynamite about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about the two guys who decided to blow up the Land of the Kings or the Valley of the Kings and map it all out and fund it and all of that fun stuff. One of them was a failed artist, so we've got a couple of failed artists. Yeah,
then you got the people like the actual grave robbers who literally undug up these mummies, ground them up to a powder, and then offered or tried to sell it or did sell it as a tea for people to drink to get long life.
Yeah.
Which is funny because, like, if you're drinking ground up King Tut, the bro did die when he was 19 years old. So
it's kind of ironic.
Yeah, that doesn't tell me that it's a longevity potion you got going on there.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds like it's a great way to get like a congenital clubbed foot, cleft palate, every syndrome known to mankind, and circumcised at the age of 14.
There you go. So if you want that.
Oh, I found an article here from NPR. The likely cause of King Tut's death finally revealed.
How old is that article?
Let me see here. This was from February of 2010.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty dang recent. So it says here the problems related to inbreeding probably contributed to Tut's death, but were not the immediate cause. Push, he's the researcher on this. Earlier studies had found that Tut had a badly broken right leg, which could have been a factor. He also had a raging case of malaria,
I
which
think I mentioned this theory.
Yep, says Howard Markel, who wrote the editorial about the new study and is the George E. Wantz Professor of History of Medicine at the University of Michigan. The new study found DNA in Tut's bones that the parasite responsible for most severe forms of malaria. That's interesting that the DNA would record the existence of a parasite.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I guess
It
it
is
makes sense.
likely. Yeah, I guess it makes sense because your body keeps a record of everything that it fights off. Yeah, and so that it's likely, though not certain, that the combination of broken bone, malaria, and underlying health problems is what killed King Tut. Markel says. Other folks say that King Tut died from his heart stopping.
That one I haven't heard. That's interesting.
Well, that's how everybody dies.
I mean, yeah. Scientifically
Every single
speaking.
human being that has ever died on this planet dies because your heart stops working.
True. But I took that sentence as like a heart attack or something.
Possibly, but at the age of 19?
Fair. That's fair.
Many of those efforts relied on document prints or pictures, he says, but this is an international team of investigators was able to put the royal mummies through a whole battery of modern medical tests that we generally reserve for living patients. The approach promises to change the way scholars attempt to diagnose people who lived hundreds or thousands of years ago, Markel says. But he adds that it also raises questions about when it's appropriate to dig up a famous person and examine him or her. So what that tells me is that when I die, I will never be dug up because I'm not famous. We tend to have a very good tradition of respecting the dead, Markel says. If we are going to exhume people and put them through a long series of medical examinations, we need to think very carefully about what we are doing. And that's literally the end of the article.
Got it. Okay. I have another one. I don't know how legitimate this article is, though, so I'm gonna send it.
I mean, it's coming from NPR, so I'm inclined to.
Well, I'm thinking about the age of it, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is 23 years ago or 13 years ago.
Okay, yeah, still.
But I just like the part where like he died because his heart stopped. It's like the fire started because there was a fire.
I started because there was a fire.
Yeah, like literally that's what it's saying. Or he died because his brain was deprived of oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny how some of these work. I know we had that mulch fire here in the valley, and there was this reporter standing in front of it, like just billowing flames behind her, and because it was just a few miles away from my house. And it was funny because this reporter is like, yeah, firefighters say that it was started by spontaneous combustion, but we're not sure what caused it. It's a spontaneous combustion. The fire started because there was a fire.
I will leave you with one more King Tut death theory that actually just came out. Maybe like 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Better than my 13 years ago.
Yeah, this one's 2 weeks old, but this one is coming from one Egyptologist instead of multiple. So that's how new it is. And it's not like, I don't know. Her name is Sophia Aziz, and she believes that he died in a chariot race while he was drinking too much wine and broke his leg and then killed him. Anyway, I'll leave you with that one.
That I feel is probably the most legit.
It's pretty logical. And it kind of falls in line with the broke your leg and the malaria got him after that. But I do like the addition of drinking too much wine.
Yeah, he was he had a severe case of drunk cuts.
Yeah, I mean where'd it go? Oh, here he goes. One Egyptologist has now proposed a controversial new theory suggesting the boy king may have died in a drunk driving crash.
God. I am seeing pictures of like a CG rendered version of him.
Is that the one from 2014 where it's all kinds of jacked up? That one's funny.
I don't know. It's
he's like really horrendous looking.
Oh yeah, because Tutankhamun, like you can clearly tell he has one leg that is really messed up.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see the overbite that he has. But then, like, the CG rendering is, yeah, you can see the gynecomastia. Like, yeah, they basically went to town on this guy being the most messed up human being.
Yeah, that's the one that's the one that National Geographic did back in like 2014. If you guys want to look it up, it is quite funny. It's rough.
Yeah.
And you can't say whether it's accurate or not because we don't know, but it is rough.
I mean, the only thing we could do is just base it off of essentially his bones.
Yeah.
And for a guy that was supposed to be mummified, it really... Well, actually, no, let me take that back. We don't know how he was mummified. He was probably done properly, but the way that he was found and dug up and removed, that's a different story.
Yes, well, they thought he was mummified twice. Some believe he was
double
mummified
mummification,
twice.
Huh?
Some believe he was mummified twice because there's 2 layers of, I don't remember the name of the chemical, but there's 2 layers of the chemical in his head. So they think that he may have been mummified once, wherever he died, and then transferred him to a proper mummification site and mummified properly after that. So they did like a speedy one on site, and then they sent him to get properly mummified after that. Which is weird. Interesting fun fact about his mummification.
Yeah, no, he's... If that CG rendering is correct...
Oh yeah, he was all kinds of jacked.
Yeah, that's... They really scraped the bottom of the gene pool barrel on this guy, so...
It's funny, everybody needs to look it up.
Oh, jeez.
I think we should wrap it up, though, on that note. That's a good note to wrap it up on.
It is.
So before we leave you, Ed, what do you got in the pipeline for us?
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to do this one absolutely next, or if we're... I feel like we need to do the King Tut, like, discovery, and the absolute just chicanery of the entire Valley of the Kings. Just how, like, white people in particular, just went in and just wrecked it. I feel like you and I should probably... Like, you do some stuff on King Tut, I'll do some stuff on the Valley of the Kings, or maybe some of the weird cultural stuff that was going on in the 1920s. Just all the craziness that was going on during that time and how it ruined so much history.
Sounds good.
But like, personally, what I'm working on is, have you ever, like, spent $3 billion on something and have it turn out to be a piece of crap?
If I had $3 billion to spend, I probably wouldn't spend it on a piece of crap.
So what I am doing some research on is, anybody who knows me, I'm a huge astronomy nut. I have like multiple telescopes. I love telescopes. I think they're one of the most pioneering pieces of human technology. And the most famous telescope that probably everybody remembers or could remember is the Hubble Space Telescope. Just because of all the decades of incredible discoveries and research that it's done and all that stuff. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, one, the concept of the Hubble Space Telescope dates all the way back to the 20s. It really didn't kind of come into fruition until like the 60s and the 70s. There was some really, really cool female astronomers that played a huge part in organizing the construction of this thing. And so, like, in the 70s and the 80s, the Hubble Space Telescope was being worked on, and then it finally got up into space in, like, 1990 or 1993 or something like that. And you'd be thinking, after so many decades of NASA's top engineers and researchers and the most brilliant minds that NASA had, because, like, when this thing was put into space. We're talking people that still were from the Apollo program. We still had engineers from Mercury and Gemini. Like, you know, like this was like the final project for a lot of these very experienced engineers. And so, like, after 30 years of development, they launched this thing up into space. All the math concluded that, like, hey, this thing is going to be the most clear, most optically perfect telescope known to mankind. And they pointed it at a galaxy. I believe it was Messier Object 101, or is it 103? I remember it was the Pinwheel Galaxy, and the first images uploaded, and like everybody was just hunkered around, just like, hey, what is this telescope going to do for us? And they see that the image is completely blurry. Like they couldn't make out any, like there was home-based telescopes that were producing clearer images of what the Hubble was producing at that time. Spectrally, it was doing okay because you don't need to have a clear image of anything to do a spectral analysis. But for the most part, yeah, it was a giant, blurry, $3 billion failure.
Solid.
And so, yeah, we're gonna. I'm doing some research into like what happened there, what like how was this developed, where did the issue arise from, and how it was fixed, because it literally turned into installing a pair of glasses inside this telescope, and it fixed it far and above and beyond what anybody could possibly imagine what this telescope could do. Yeah, it was a dumpster fire, and then it was quickly put out.
Nice.
So yeah, we're going to be looking at the Hubble Space Telescope. But I kind of want to dive into this Egyptian thing. I kind of want to dive into the absolute stupidity of what Europeans and Americans were doing in the country of Egypt at that time. And yeah, I kind of want to just dive into that. Like maybe you and I would have like instead of like you doing one episode, I do an episode, let's like you and I kind of work together to create one episode where we look at everything that like you focus on Tut himself and how that was a hot mess and how he was discovered and whatnot. And I'll look at the all the other weird stuff that went on in the Valley of the Kings and the weird sales of, you know, Egyptian phalluses and, and all that kind of weird stuff that went down that really did more harm than good, obviously.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So yeah, no, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's 8 hours past your bedtime.
Sure is. If anybody wants to get a hold of us, please send us your trash can fires, questions, comments, concerns, considerations, ideas. You can reach us at Instagram, Today's Dumpster Fire, or you can reach us at todaysdumpsterfire@gmail.com.
Yes.
We want to hear from you. Let us know.
Yeah, no, because I really want to start compiling like listener tales and stuff like that, because let's face it, we all fail.
Oh, also, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your sentence.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say we all fail, and it's like the one thing that makes us like really cool as a human being is we get to live to tell a tale.
Yeah, man. This is true. And I also just wanted to give shouts to our friend who we don't know who they are, but we have a friend in the UK who has been listening to us lately. We just want to give them some shouts.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, bro. Whoever you are, or lady, or person. Human. Thank you, human, in the UK.
They.
The human.
That person over in the UK.
Solid.
Like, because I've noticed that. I've seen that on our statistics and everything. It's like we've got a friend in the UK who's like our biggest fan. And so
I dig it.
Yeah.
No idea who this human is, but we appreciate you.
Well, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start including our email address and our Instagram link on each episode of like the summary and everything like that in the show notes, so that reach out, give us feedback, tell us how good we are, tell us how bad we are.
We
may delete those, but yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.
Alrighty, y'all keep it a hot mess.
Bye.
Bye.